EAGLES, Eagles.
And welcome in, everybody, to a Football Friday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, Johnny Mac, John McMullen, here to close out the week for everybody, fresh off of a Memorial Day weekend. We had a shorter week, a four-show week this week, but the Eagles got back out there for OTAs. We heard from Jalen Hurts. We heard from some other players, Nick Sirianni, and things are back in motion for this Eagles team. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Football Friday, my friend?
Doing well. Yeah, it's almost June 1st, too. You got to throw that in there, too.
We're gonna start there, yeah.
What are we? May 29th, so Monday. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, Monday would be June 1st, June 2nd, a Tuesday, June 3rd, a Wednesday. Will AJ be traded by Thursday morning, June 4th?
Yeah, I don't know about that quickly, but, all I know is it's going to happen.
Yeah, I agree.
As far as the timing, I don't think that's as relevant, although I know people are very impatient as usual, but, I think don't often. Mike Florio is not one of my go-to guys, but I think he explained it well this morning. I was just reading it before I got on. He wrote basically there's only one viable destination, and that's New England. If there was another team pursuing Brown, it would have been leaked by now. I think that's fair. Now, the only thing that can change is, again, OTAs are going on across the league. Mini camps will be going on across the league. So other teams are looking at what they have. And there's a lot of times young players come in and you pencil them in. This guy's going to be that. This guy's going to be that. The Eagles are doing it with Mekhi Lemon. And you say to yourself, and I'm not saying this about Mekhi, but in other cities, they might say, we don't have as much as we thought we had, and it might reopen things. And that's where you can have sort of a lull. But the idea that he's going to be back, I mean, that's been, man, that's in ink. He's not going to be back.
No, that ship has sailed. I mean, my question is just, will a team like the Chiefs or somebody like that come in?
That's where I disagree with Mike a little bit, in that, this is the time of year where people make assessments, and like I said, everything's positive. You see it all the time with the draft, and people, we do it here. And I remember the fifth round pick year with Trevor Keegan and Nia Smith. All the fans were excited about players like that, and it's like, whoa, settle down with that. And it's like you pencil in these players and you get them in your building, and they're not quite what you thought. And that happens all over the league, and I've seen it many, many times, and that can change thinking quickly. So there's still a chance for other people to get involved, and Kansas City's a good example, because not only do they have issues, but to begin with, but Rasheed Rice is in prison. So that, not exactly a guy you can count on. But, what complicates other things, there's other veteran receivers out there. Kansas City is always put together with Tyreek Hill for obvious reasons, but, I don't know where he is health-wise, but Stephon Diggs is out there, and he's been cleared of his legal troubles. So he's still a productive player. So there are veteran avenues that other teams can go down as well that might not be as costly. So you have to factor in that as well.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's going to be interesting to see, John. The other part of that is, you always say teams got to be honest with themselves too, where, what do they have? How confident are they in it? I think there will be some other teams, John, out there that would be interested in A.J. Brown. I don't think it will only be New England. I don't know. Why does that feel so hard for me to believe that only New England would be interested in this?
Well, as Mike correctly pointed out, we would have heard by now if somebody else is involved, and we have heard of teams that have bowed out. They could bow back in. There's no law against it. But most of those teams have made decisions in other directions. So again, you're penciling in people, and that's where the OTAs come into it, mandatory minicamp. Maybe it's not what you penciled in. Maybe it's not what you pictured. But, for me with AJ, it would be a team like the Rams, unfortunately. But again, the Rams created other problems in that they're in your way, arguably, in the NFC. But that would be the team that would want a player like AJ Brown because they're on the cusp of realistically, in their mind, certainly winning a Super Bowl. And I think it is realistic. I think that is honest. Like they're in a position to seize the moment. But you could argue the Eagles are in position to seize the moment as well. So why do they want to make it easier for somebody to seize that same moment? I like that marriage. The New England marriage is a good one because he's out of conference. And if you do have to face him, it's going to be in the Super Bowl, and you're not going to mind if it's in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. I saw yesterday, John. You tell me if this is a big crock of BS. I saw an Eagle account, so I guess the remaining hopefuls that are out there, they're placating to them a little bit. But that said, if AJ Brown stays in Philly, this could be one of the best receiving groups of all time. AJ, Devontae, Mekhi, Wicks, Elijah Moore, and who am I missing?
People talk themselves into it.
I know. What would you put the chance at that happening? 1%? Zero. Literally 0%.
0%.
Wow. Normally you hit me with a never say never. You can't say 0%. For sure.
Zero. He's not coming back.
Well, the only area I could see it possible be I'd put 1% would be as if Howie doesn't get what he wants. Like what if he's getting a 2 and a 3?
I still think he's getting a 2028 first-round pick. I think the wrangling now is they want a 2027 first-round pick, and they're not going to get it.
He's not willing to give that?
Well, they're not. I don't think they're getting that. But I do think they'll get a 2028, and at the end, he'll acquiesce and take it.
And what if they're not willing to give a 28?
I think they will. At worst, conditional. Again, it creates more problems, not only from the standpoint of he doesn't want to be here. You built your whole team with the idea he's not going to be here. You spent $12 million on a guy who would be irrelevant.
Yeah.
You talk about that fantasy football mentality. There's only one football. You traded up in the draft to get Mekhi Lemon because you didn't think you're going to have AJ Brown. Well, you're not going to have AJ Brown. You're not drafting Mekhi Lemon if you have AJ Brown.
Right. You almost have to trade him now. You've already committed to it.
Well, and that's the mentality that they knew they were going to trade him before they drafted. They drafted Mekhi Lemon with the understanding they were trading him. They have a different understanding if there was any chance to have a reconciliation or anything of that nature, or Howie changing his mind. They wouldn't have built the team the way they built the team. So yeah, I mean, people are in love. Sam. People are in love with skill position. Give me more skill position. It's like heroin to these people. Skill position. Go get somebody who can fucking block. Every good team blocks well. Nobody cares.
That's a soundbite right there. Skill position. Go get somebody that can fucking block. I love it, Johnny Mac. Well, do the Eagles have somebody that can block? We think they do, don't we?
Well, yeah. I mean, their offensive line is still one of the best in football if they're healthy. But the depth has been, picked over to the point where this is on paper the weakest depth group in years. Doesn't mean somebody can't step up. Drew Kendall, Miles Hinton, specifically younger players like that. I think the organization's very high on Drew Kendall as an interior backup. But it's unproven. Miles Hinton moving inside, unproven. A lot of hype about about Bell getting first team reps for Lane Johnson, Markel Bell, the 3rd round pick, getting first team reps for Lane Johnson, who wasn't there on the OTA open to reporters. Again, that's an off-season mentality. It's good. Get them those first team reps. But look, if this were September and they had to play, it'd be Fred Johnson. So, but maybe he can get up to speed with the summer. Who knows? But you have that opportunity. Micah Morris started out on the 3rd team. No surprise there. But maybe he can develop. Jake Majors, a guy who played a lot. I think he set the Texas record, big time school, by the way, Texas record for starts by a player. So he's got a lot of college experience. Who knows? All these players have some upside, but it's all unproven. And on paper, if you're being honest with yourself, this doesn't look great from a depth standpoint, which, again, that's a luxury, yes, but you also have a bunch of guys who've been injured. Lane Johnson, Cam Jurgens, Landon Dickerson. So
when they pick up Jake Majors?
Last year he was
the futures.
No, he was on the practice squad. So, but he was on the practice squad for basically the entire season, September 9th. So I think, maybe between week 1 and week 2, I forget when the opener was. So, so he was on the practice squad for the entire season. And then, after you have to sign a futures contract, but he was here last year for basically the entire season. He
got
signed
an impressive track record. I mean, in college, 57 starts, as you mentioned, it was the record. He was an honorable mention, all Big 12 player, finalist for the 2024 Campbell Trophy. Maybe he turns into a decent depth player on that offensive line.
Yeah, they have a lot of guys with that,
Yeah.
But he did go undrafted. Tampa signed him, and he got cut down there, and the Eagles signed him, and he was on the practice squad for the entire year. And hey, guys develop, and he does have a lot of experience at a big time school and a big time conference. So you never know. You can say a lot of good things about Miles Hinton with the pedigree and all that stuff, and Drew Kendall with his pedigree. They have the bloodlines. But it's unproven. All of it's unproven.
Fair enough. We'll see do you think they will end up adding more to the offensive line, John, this summer?
Well, I think a lot of it is how it goes in these OTAs, even though, we can't get a good feel for offensive linemen. They can. I mean, they're longtime football coaches. You don't have Jeff Stoutland, but Chris Cooper's been around. And they'll get a feel for, are these guys capable of being backups? And if they're not, they're going to bring in more veteran experience. And that'll probably happen after, before training camp. You'll see. If they're not happy with what they see in the spring, they'll bring somebody in. They already had Michael Jordan in for a tryout at rookie camp, veteran player with a lot of starts. So, if they sign somebody like that, you'll know that, they're not comfortable with what they have as depth on the offensive line.
Yeah, fair enough. Wasn't really an easy position to address this summer. Would you agree with that? Like, when you have a bunch of guys paid like that, and we all understand why they were paid. I don't think anybody had any contention with Howie when he paid these players. They just didn't play as good as you wanted them to play, and in Lane's case, obviously he's getting older, but I don't know that there was like a clear move they could have made,
Well, they could have drafted the tackle in the first round, but
even then, where would he be? He'd be a backup.
Yeah, well, unless you got the certain guys who could play inside, which you weren't able to get, and that's why they didn't take him. Basically.
Yeah, but who would that have been, and who would they have replaced? Steen? You think Steen would have just been sent to the bench?
Well, not necessarily, but I think it would have been a legitimate competition.
Which would have given you in turn more depth, which is fair.
Yeah. Which and if Tyler stays fine. If he doesn't, yeah, he's a really good depth piece, Tyler Steen. So, and that's what we talked about all spring was the Eagles getting a potential heir apparent to Lane Johnson, which they may have gotten in the third round with Markel Bell. But obviously, if you're doing it in the first round, you feel a little bit better about it. But there weren't a lot of guys who had that flexibility. Like, when you think about the Fontano year, they thought he had that flexibility, and they weren't able to get him. If you look at the guys that were around where the Eagles picked, Freeling, fell farther than most expected, but he can't move inside. He's a natural tackle. Max Ianashore was the guy we talked about a lot, but he's really raw. He wasn't going to move inside, natural tackle. So the one guy got a pretty lockdown that they wanted was Caden Proctor, and he went earlier than people expected.
Yeah. He went really early. He might have went too early, but yeah.
And Miami was that wild card because, as we said, they ripped that thing down to the studs, and they needed everything. So you had no idea where Miami was going. They needed everything, and they took them, which, by the way, is smart. Taking all.
And then LA pick is the other reason that Mekhi Lemon ended up in Philadelphia.
Yeah, and everybody thought the Rams were taking Mekhi Lemon, but so Howie will tell you all the time, you can't dictate the board. You can't control other teams. The Rams, they decided they're good. They're never going to be in a position to take a quarterback to replace Matthew Stafford. So let's get it started. And they believe in the kid, and they took him. We'll see if they made a mistake or not, but that was a surprise around the league. That the Dolphins, not that it was a surprise, but I don't think a lot of people knew where Miami was going because they needed so much. So they were always going to be a wild card. And then the guys who won above that weren't the Eagles didn't expect to have a chance to get them. Probably the best one for playing guard would have been Mauigoa, who went to the Giants at 10. He would have been a guard right off the bat, I think. And they're going to play him at guard, I understand. Spencer Fanu can play inside. He went 9. So they kind of knew he wasn't going to be in a position. And then the guys who went after the Caleb Lomus of the world, they're tackles. They're not going to move inside. So, and the Eagles stuck to their board, and they had Mekhi Lemon as a top 15 player on their board. Didn't think he'd be there, and they went up and got him instead of just taking the next tackle. It's as I try to explain all the time, it's not like, well, just take the next tackle. They're not. I've said pretty consistently they weren't going to like all those tackles.
Yeah, right. You did.
So you don't just take a position. You're taking a player if you're doing it right.
No doubt. All right, John. Well, we talked about AJ to start the show. Obviously, talked a little O-line. How do you feel about the way the O-line will fit in this new projected offense, and kind of as a whole, what they've done personnel-wise to adapt to this new offense that they are seemingly going to run with Sean Mannion? I got asked this question yesterday. I feel pretty good about 4 of the 5 offensive linemen in it. I don't know how I feel about Landon Dickerson in it, who seems to me like a mauler, obviously, with a lot of lower extremity injuries, which could limit him, further he gets into his career, and kind of, using that athleticism to maybe get outside and make blocks, outside the numbers or wherever, or, not outside the numbers, but, not in your typical power scheme that they were running. How do you think this offensive line and this personnel fit with what they're trying to run here in Philly?
Well, they're not used to it, so I think that's, we're a little bit, and I fall in this trap as well. We're a little bit spoiled in Philadelphia watching this offensive line over the years. So, I think the expectations are a little bit um, out of whack because of just how good they've been. So, if you look at, and this is why I was talking to somebody in the league, and I was like, well, look at the Rams. I mean, they might be the best team in football. They don't have an all-pro offensive line like the Eagles. When the Eagles are clicking, you know, Alaric Jackson is their left tackles, good player, not a great player. Steve Abia is their left guard, good player, not a great player. Coleman Shelton's their center. I would say below average. Kevin Dotson, good player, not a great player. Warren McClendon, that's what you're talking about. So, the Eagles have a bunch of good players. To me, the only question is they'll figure it out if they're healthy. The only question to me is the health of Cam Jurgens and Landon Dickerson. That's it. They'll figure it out because they're too good. And certainly Lane Lane seems excited about it because, to be honest, he spent his entire career on an island, and this, in theory, would help him a little bit.
Yeah, this might help him.
So I do think, and I fell into that trap as well. And if you look at Seattle, and if you look at San Francisco is a little bit different because they've had some good offensive linemen, but they've had some mediocre ones as well. So that group will figure it out if they're healthy. That's the question to me, health. And then, they'll probably run more inside zone than they think they're going to run.
Right.
Because they're so good at it, if they're healthy. So I kind of think that part will take care of itself.
Yeah, me too. All right, good stuff there. Johnny Mac, when it comes to the running game this year and the running backs, what do you think about Saquon Barkley and the fit there, obviously, with what they're going to try and run? You asked Saquon, I thought it was a great question about being a patient runner. I don't want to say he didn't really agree with you. He kind of said, no, it's not really that.
Disagreed. He
disagreed. He did. He disagreed. Right. What do you think of kind of that fit and how he might look in this style of offense as compared to what he's run in his career?
Yeah, well, I think it's going to be interesting. What he basically told me is he feels inside zone you have to be more patient, and he mentioned his jump cut, which is his jump cut is legendary, basically, which is not a lot of people can make jump cuts, so maybe for him it is a little bit different because not a lot of people can replicate what he does. So from his perspective, he thinks you need more patience with inside zone. Just watching him from outside, he's never struck me as the most patient runner. Like if you want to look at patient, Le'Veon Bell's the guy I always default to, everybody defaults to. That's what I'm kind of looking at in his prime. If you want to look at the Super Bowl and how Kenneth Walker ran the football in the Super Bowl very patiently, he doesn't strike me as that, nor does Tank Bigsby. It's not a bad thing. In fact, I prefer north-south guys. I prefer guys who hit the hole and go.
Yeah.
And that's my preference. And that's always been Saquon to me. I think he gets in trouble when he doesn't go north-south and tries to hit the home run all the time. Similar to Miles Sanders when he was here. Miles would get in trouble when he tried to stretch things or, not take what's there. The old, if it's blocked for 3 yards, get those 3 yards. And, if the home runs will come. So, from his perspective, he said guys who do really well in outside zone are one cut backs. I mean, I don't know. I that's not how I think about what Kenneth Walker did in the Super Bowl. But Saquon's a little bit different in that he's got abilities that most people don't have.
What did you think of his comp to Todd Gurley?
Well, Saquon's which you don't find often, by the way. He's a real historian of football. Like, he loves football. He pays attention to the past and tries to learn from great runners of the past, and which I think is a very big positive. And Todd Gurley had a lot of success with the Rams in this style. So
you're right. It is unique, by the way. Sorry to cut you off, but did you see that video of the freaking, who's the dude who just got drafted that you loved? Jeremiah Love.
Yeah.
They gave him pictures of a bunch of NFL players.
Oh,
he didn't even know who Jared Goff was.
Yeah. Yeah.
He couldn't even name Megatron.
Yeah.
They gave him a picture of Megatron. He didn't even get it right.
You would be shocked. There's far more Jeremiah Loves than
Saquon Barkley. No, I believe it. But go ahead. To your point, Saquon Barkley is a student of the game for sure. Yeah.
And he's always, contacting big time backs from the past. Barry Sanders, being one of the most notable about how to handle things and about how to do things. So I think that's a positive for Saquon. And look, Gurley had a ton of success in this particular style of running attack that they're going to try to do. So it makes sense to look at him. And I would say, if anything, Saquon's more gifted. So, watching the way he attacked it, I think, is a positive. And, he even mentioned the guys now, and the obvious guys like Bijan, who I think is the best running back in the NFL right now, and Gibbs, who's number 2, and McCaffrey, who's still up there, and Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor, I think he mentioned, all the big time backs. But I think it's a positive because he really does study the game, and he's invested in it, which I think is always good, versus guys like Love, who I do love and is so gifted, insanely gifted. But I mean, that's, sometimes you have to be wary of that because they play football because they're so gifted at it and they don't necessarily love it. Saquon is that gifted and he does love it. So you can't spin that any other way than positive. Although I disagree with him with the patient running.
Yeah.
I've seen too many patient runners have success. Other than, I guess his mentality was, well, you wait, you stretch it, and then you cut back once. That's realistic. But as opposed to,
I guess he just has a different definition of patient. I mean,
exactly.
Patient,
yeah. Exactly. That's where I think the disconnect was. He's like, well, the jump cut, is more of, whereas if you are stretching it, you are just cutting back once. So I do get his perception from that aspect.
Good stuff there. All right, so that's the run game thought process for Johnny Mack coming in this year. John, I want to stick on the offense. We're going to switch over to defense here in a little bit. When it comes to the tight end position this year, how do you see this? How do you see this playing out in terms of who's on the field, how much they're on the field? Is it 11 personnel, 12 personnel, 13 personnel? Something McVay did a lot last year. How do you kind of see the Eagles running or a tight end rotation shaping up this year for the 2026 season?
Well, I think it's going to be a lot of Dallas Goederts and a lot of Johnny Muntz. And I think the scraps will continue from there. So I don't think you have the personnel to run a lot of 13. And I'm not sure you want the person. Like, I don't think Sean McVay wants to run 13. I think he did because that's the personnel, and he deserves credit for shifting from his usual mindset. But he'd prefer to be a heavy 11 team. Nobody would prefer to run more 11 than Sean McVay. but he didn't have the receivers to do it last year. And he had a bunch of tight ends, so he used them. And he even got more this year. They got Max Clare as a guy that I thought would have been a great fit for the Eagles. They drafted him in the second round. So now you have Parkinson, Higbee, Ferguson, Clare, Davis Allen. I mean, they are just loaded at tight end. So I think they're going to be a heavy 12-13 team again. I don't think the Eagles have the blockers to do that. If you look at their third and fourth, they're both receivers and very, very poor blockers. So, I think it's going to be a lot of Dallas Goedert and Johnny Muntz, who is the one blocker they do have at tight end. So he's got a big advantage to make the team. And, weird de facto, if you're like, who can't get hurt? Johnny Munt can't get hurt.
Oh, gosh. Johnny Munt? I see Brian Fleming in the chat. He says Munt Cake is this year's Harrison Bryant. McMullen, you disagree, it sounds like.
Well, he could be if Max Clare, that they drafted Max Clare. Yeah, I would have been on board. They don't have it. I guess if you want to move Cam Latu back to tight end from fullback, maybe he could do it. I haven't seen enough of Stone Smart, but I don't know if he can do it. But I think he was a quarterback in college as well early in his career. So I don't know a ton about Stone Smart, but generally, if you're a quarterback who shifts into a tight end, you're not a good blocker. That's where Eli Stowers is. So I don't think that's the strength of his game. More special teams guy, I would say. Daquan Wright had a nice big time seam pass from Cole Payton at the OTA the other day. Undrafted kid, he's got some size, but he's more of a receiver. EJ Jenkins is actually, was a college receiver who was just oversized, so they moved him to tight end. Now, behind the scenes, he's really big, and I've heard positive sort of declarations about his blocking ability. So he seems to be taking to it. So maybe he could jump up. But I mean, Johnny Munt's a proven blocker at the NFL level. Now he's never played a ton, so it's not like I think his career high in snaps is 430 or something like that, 450. So he's always been a third tight end. So I'm not going to sit here and be like that Harrison Bryant fan from last year and say, he's a different. I'm just saying they don't have anybody else for that role.
Right. I get what you're saying.
And if they did,
where is the path then, John, for the number 54 overall pick in the draft to get on the football field and make a difference and make an impact? Nowhere.
Well, I think you're going to have specific packages, but I don't think you can play him consistently and that's, what I heard from before the Eagles even drafted him. It's like from one of the draft guys I talked to, it's like, if you draft these guys who can't do one or the other, and it works both ways. If you're not a good receiver, but you're just a blocker, it works both ways. You become very, easy to read from a tendency standpoint. And it becomes a problem ultimately. You got to be able to do both at least an acceptable level. And that's one of the reasons why, if you think about this particular offense and we look at the George Kittles being number one, but we look at the Rams, we look at the Packers, they always have a more, and that's why I focused on Max Clare. I'm like, they always have that type of guy. in these offenses. And the Eagles just went with the, Madden player who had the highest Madden rig. He's a great receiver. But, he played, I think, 40% of the snaps at Vandy. Or 40% of the running snaps at Vandy. It's like at Vanderbilt, which was a good college team, it's no longer, the dregs of the SEC. That has been a really good team, partially because of Eli Stowers, most notably Diego Pavia playing quarterback. But the point I'm trying to make is he wasn't a full-time player at Vanderbilt because of his blocking deficiencies. Why do people think he's going to be a essentially not a full-time, but a heavy snap guy in the NFL with the Philadelphia Eagles?
I mean, are they going to line him up here and there as a third wide receiver?
Yeah, they already did it at OTAs. I saw, the one play I mentioned on the show. It really the only play I noticed. I don't remember. We'll ask Caden. Caden Steele's going to be on in hour 2. I don't think he was targeted. Obviously there's no replays. And, you got to be hyper focused on practice. You miss stuff. But the one time I noticed him, he was lined out wide. Inside, not outside the numbers, but still inside, but lined up way outside. It wasn't a condensed set. And, they used it as a decoy to throw it underneath to Will Shipley on that particular play. And that was, but again, if you look at him in college, he was not a full-time player there. So he's not going to be a full-time player as a rookie in the NFL. He needs to get in an NFL weight program, strength program, and he needs to improve his blocking to be more than a situational guy you're trying to create matchups for and maybe get loose in a particular situation, which I think, they'll have packages for him. But I don't think he's ready from the blocking perspective.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see. I think that 54 overall pick's going to get on the damn football field. Johnny Mack, I don't know if he will. I get what you're saying, but we'll find out what they do. I can't believe Johnny Munt. If that guy goes down, the Eagles are going to be tough sledding, is what Johnny Mack's telling me.
Well, you'll have guys, like I said.
Kind of like Johnny Wilson last year. I remember you said, and everybody in our chat was like, oh, shut up, McMullen. Who cares that Johnny Wilson got hurt? You were like, guys, this might be a big deal. Johnny Wilson does a lot in the blocking game for this team. Well, we don't know what the season would have looked like if he was out there, but maybe it did have a bigger impact. Kind of what it reminds me of here this year with Johnny Munt. Maybe they need him out there for that reason.
And I'm not trying to say he's a big-time player. He's a role player, but, he plays a role that they don't have unless, somebody steps up. And maybe that's Latu, maybe it's EJ Jenkins. But they don't have anybody to take that role. So, when I said before the draft, don't put Grant Calcaterra in Penn, don't put Johnny Ment in Penn, because if they draft a tight end, depending on what they draft, a blocker or a guy who can block or a receiver, can all of a sudden cross them out. Well, you can cross Grant Calcaterra out, barring injury. Might even get traded. They don't have a blocker, so Johnny's in. Till they find a blocker.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. We got a couple super chats.
Meanwhile, the Rams got Max Clare.
Yeah, Rams are going to be good. Rams are going to be a good team this year. We'll see what that looks like. Good stuff in the opening segment. I want to thank everybody for being here. Don't forget to hit that like button. I appreciate all you guys. We've got a good crowd in here for the end of May. What are we wrapping up May? I think by Monday, right, John? We will be into what I will call the A.J. Brown month. Yes, Monday is June 1st. So I hope everybody had a good May. I can't believe May has already come and gone. Man, it's crazy how quick time moves. It's almost like they're speeding up the clock a couple percent a year. It feels like it to me. Let's go to our super chats here. Jason Gates, what's up, man? Any word on the hotel deals for the opener? Krause mentioned there would be one once the schedule came out. Thank you, go Birds. Jason, I will reach out to him today. I don't think any update yet. I know he's trying to get a block down there by the stadium, so I will keep you posted on that. Look for me to give an update on that next week, Jason, maybe even early next week. All right, brother? Here's Walt Gell. He says, hey, guys, what do you hear about the Giants and the Cowboys? The impression I get is both will cause us trouble. Your channel will only get bigger this year. It's great. Have a great weekend, Bill K. Bill, thank you, man, for the super chat. Johnny Mac, your thoughts or your response to what he asked about the Giants and the Cowboys?
Yeah, I mean, I think they've both gotten better. Certainly, I think the Cowboys are a much bigger threat to the Eagles than the Giants. But I do think you have to worry about them more simply because John Harbaugh's there, and they have a good coach, and they're going to start making better decisions, and they have. But they're coming from a point where they had to go a lot farther than the Cowboys, so they need some time still. It doesn't help when you lose Dexter Lawrence, who got frustrated. They had to move him. Probably their best overall player. So now you have to sort of piecemeal it and go forward with DJ Reader and Shelby Harris and guys like that. Do have a lot of pass rushers on paper. Drafted Arvell Reese. They had 2 top 10 picks. So right off, you get Arvell Reese and you got Malagoa. So who's going to start at guard? And that should help, which has been a disaster area, their offensive line. They brought in Tremaine Edmonds after he got cut in Chicago. A good player, but they paid him like he was a Hall of Famer. So they had to move on. A lot of bullshit going on because Jackson Dart, I don't know, did something with Trump, and Abdul Carter was upset by it. So that's the kind of stuff you got to deal with as a coach. It's like you're rolling your eyes. You're like, who gives a shit? But it's the stuff you got to deal with. I was a little, because I was high on Carter. Jeff Kerr, if you're listening, cover your ears. I don't think he performed as well as I expected in his rookie season. So big year for him as a pass rusher. He needs to be that. People talk about trading Kayvon Thibodeau. Well, maybe they can get something for Kayvon Thibodeau, but then Abdul Carter's got to step up. I mean, he's got to play better. And their secondary is pretty good. I think it's better than people think. Paulson Adebo is a player I've always liked. Deontay Banks is a player I like coming out, has been disappointing. They have Javon Holland at safety. He's pretty good. Greg Newsome they got. So they're getting better, but they had a long way to go. So I don't think they're going to compete for the NFC East like the Eagles are, but I think the Cowboys are. I mean, the Cowboys have a chance to be good. Now, it is the Cowboys. They're run by a kind of, let's be nice and call them eccentric. They don't always make the best decisions, to say the least. But they got a lot of good players because Will McClay is one of the best personnel people in the NFL. And I talk about it year after year after year. And they find players. Might be draft, might be free agency. But they tend to find players. Trade market, they got Quinnen Williams after they traded Micah Parsons. I'd still take Micah, but you get the point. They got a chance to be a good team. And it all hinges on defense, and they got Christian Parker from the Eagles. So I know everybody's high on him, and they're going to be better The question is, can they be middle of the road? They're sort of like the Eagles were when Vic was coming in, and the Eagles were coming off the Sean Desai, Matt Patricia year when they literally had the worst defense in the NFL by the end of the regular season. The last 6-7 games, they were the worst defensive team in the NFL. And I said coming off that season, well, if Vic can just get them to be middle of the pack, they're going to be a really good team. And he did much more than that. If Christian Parker can get them to middle of the pack, they're going to be a really good team because they're just good offensively. They have a good quarterback, good running back, good wide receivers, good offensive line, good tight ends. They're just good on offense. And if their defense can hold their water, they're going to be a playoff team, and they're going to be fighting to win the NFC East.
It's going to be interesting to see. I think the NFC East will be much better this year. I don't know if the Giants are fully ready for it, John, but they do have a good roster, as you pointed out. And, we'll see what Jackson Dart can do. John, I got reservations on Dart. I know you like him because Vic likes him, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I can't get inside the head of Vic Fangio. And no, I will not tell people I know more than Vic or even a percentage of what Vic knows about the game. But
well, you know what I don't like about these.
But real quick, though, Vic, I think Vic says he doesn't like Dart or not fears him, but respects him as a game because, Dart can beat you in these unconventional ways that you can't really game plan for. But once that goes away, can Dart beat you at all? I don't know.
Sometimes it doesn't go away. That's the problem. Well, you're right. I mean, you saw it with Jalen Hurts. I mean,
right.
Those have been the 2 Super Bowls. I mean, and you heard Steve Spagnuolo after the Super Bowl loss saying, we did, and this guy's just out there extending plays, making plays. They did what they wanted to, take away Saquon Barkley. Now the defense was, by the point the offense got going, the game was already over. But, I mean, that gives defensive coordinators fits, guys who can just create something out of nothing. Gives them fits. So that's definitely part of it. But, I saw it this week with Jackson Dart and J.J. McCarthy as well, who, as people watch the show know, I'm not a big fan of. They're just so immature. And it's just, young. But I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm getting older. All young. I was immature when I was 22 or 20. All people are. But there's levels. And, like Jeffrey Lurie said about Jalen Hurts, he's the most mature whenever he said it, 24. He was 24, 25 at the time. It's the most mature 25-year-old I ever met. There's levels. So many of these guys are so fucking immature. I don't know if you saw the McCarthy stuff, but Kyler Murray handles it perfectly. He's out there like, well, we're like it's like a classroom. He sits on one side. I said, I don't know if you saw that interview.
I saw that.
He's like a moron. Forget about he can't play on the field.
I know.
He can't handle the position.
Yeah, that was a really stupid answer by him.
Yeah. And with Jackson Dart, he should be able to introduce anybody once, but we live in the society we live in. I don't agree with it. And you're the quarterback of the team, and you got to be hypersensitive of keeping everything together. It just rubs me the wrong way. I think there's a bunch of immature people coming into the league. I think it's gotten worse. I've just used 2 examples this week. Now, then you have Jalen Hurts. It's not a death sentence because, again, it's at levels. He's very mature for a young person. I would say he's more the outlier, but I don't remember a lot of guys being as immature as some of the quarterbacks you see coming into the league in the past.
I think that's fair. We'll be interesting to see, John, what kind of impact that has. Let's keep rolling here on Super Chats. Bill, thank you, man, for the super. Here's Prince. What's up, Prince? Good to see you, brother. He says this, J-Mac, coming off observing the first practice, how do you feel? And what do you think can do if they keep progressing in this new offense? I know they didn't put pads on yet. What does the eye test say?
boy, one OTA practice. I don't take anything too seriously. In the spring, I just don't. You guys are not even there. I mean, Lane's not there. Jalen Carter's not there. Dontavian Wicks isn't there. It's sort of, and the players and it's foundational. It's more important for the younger guys than the older guys, and especially with the new offense. It's very foundational. You're not going to see what the offense is going to look like until they, as I used the Vic example, he throws everything. He's learned over the years to throw everything at his players early and then scale back. I think that's what they're going to do offensively. Throw everything, throw the McVay offense at them, Shanahan, and then scale it back to what they do well. I think that's what's going to happen. But after one practice, I don't want to. The defense was ahead of the offense. It usually is. It should be. Vic's been here. Vic's the best in the business. He's been coaching for 40 freaking years. And you got a guy less than 3 years off the field. So he's going to be learning just from practicing against Vic Fangio. But I can't make grandiose predictions on one practice, one OTA practice where there's no pads and anything like that. But other than you're going to see more under center.
Yeah,
you're going to see more of what the Eagles did last year. And here's my biggest takeaway. For all that Jalen Hurts, and it was real, he pushed back from everything I get. So if you look at the ESPN stuff from Tim, my buddy Tim McManus and Jeremy Fowler, it's real. They're not making shit up. There was a lot of pushback. So I checked in with some people. What I got is, he wasn't comfortable. They didn't practice it. Remember, you go through OTAs and training camp and mini camp, and you're practicing a completely different style. Then you get to the season and you go, this isn't working. We're going to shift to this, which we haven't done.
Right.
And that's what I think you saw the difference, that Jalen Hurts is embracing it as the foundational. Well, now he's practicing it from day one. So he's more open-minded about it. As far as, let's say, they get to week 6 this year and say, this isn't working, and we're going to play another different style of offense. He probably pushed back on that as well, right. Which I think, when I was explaining that, I think it makes some sense.
It does. It's consistent by Hurts. It does make sense. Yeah.
So from that standpoint, I think that's all positive. I think he's more willing to do it because he's going to be prepared. Last year, he wasn't prepared for it. So he pushed back. Which, again, makes some sense to me. So I think all of that is positive. And from Sean Mannion, I've, from his perspective, hearing him talk, like he's just not going to play a certain style because that's what people think he's going to play. He's going to look at what he has from an offensive perspective. And so I think all of that is positive, and build around what you should do as a coach, build around the strengths of the players you have.
Well, how did it look just in the first showing, right? Was the ball coming out on time? Was there anything that you saw that was like,
yeah, pretty much. It was, but again, it's easy in 7-on-7s.
Right.
Even in the short team drills they were doing, it's much easier because Vic isn't game planning for them,
Yeah, right.
Like, if you start running, getting the ball, like the first throw, which I loved, by the way, Sean Mannion, hat tip to Sean Mannion. Quick hitch route to Devontae
you kind of called that, didn't you? Didn't you call that?
No, I did. I'm hoping they do it. I'm hoping they do it in the
game,
in the first game, and it worked. And Devontae was open. But obviously, if you continue to do that time and time again, people start to game plan it. They start jumping routes, and becomes much more difficult. So,
Right.
But it was all positive, I would say, from the standpoint of Jalen Hurts embracing it, and Sean Mannion saying the right things. But words are words. Lip service. Actions are greater than words. So we're going to see. But I do think Jalen's most revealing answer was when he was asked about playing under center and running less. And it wasn't even the running part of it, because he sort of, went on to a tangent. But so he said, when you look back at 2020 and 2021, in those times, we were a heavy gun team. We ran a lot of inside zone. We ran a lot of RPO. We got to the edge a good bit. Defenses were different too. The game has changed. That doesn't mean you remove those elements. But again, the base of the offense was running inside zone. And that's not typical for the West Coast type of style, which bothers me, but I digress. So I think that's a natural difference. I think from a pass game standpoint, as things have evolved, we were very one-on-one dependent and trying to find a matchup instead of a full flow style. It's a component where I think it's up to how we put it all together. And I got a lot of good trust in where we are right now and what's to come. So he explained the previous offense, a lot of one-on-one, a lot of hitch, because Devontae and AJ would win consistently. Now you're not going to have AJ. But I do think you're going to see more inside zone than probably projected. I do think you're going to see more hitch routes than probably projected, because they still have Saquon Barkley. They still have that offensive line. They still have Devontae Smith. So I think Sean called it blending. I think there is going to be a blending.
John, maybe I'm reaching here. You tell me. With this offense, I know we've talked a lot about Hurts' skill set this summer and whether it fits in what this new offense is going to be or if it doesn't. But if you go back to 22 and 21, late 21 with Shane, something that I felt like was prevalent in those offenses, obviously was much more RPO heavy. It was different. I'm not trying to compare it perfectly, but one of the components was the decision was almost predetermined by, or at least could quickly be determined based on what the defense did when you're running an RPO. In other words, the edge closes it down, that tells Jalen what to do. And in some ways, it makes the decision process easier, right? Okay, if this happens, I do this. If this happens, I do that. Kind of built in for him, which made him more effective. Is there a way to implement that type of thing in this offense where maybe we don't need Jalen Hurts to just be this fast processor and fast decision maker in every single play? Can they build in kind of built-in reads or built-in, places for Jalen to go with the football in this style of offense, or am I trying to conflate things too much?
Yeah, I mean, you don't, you RPOs are, college-based, and it is simplifying things for the quarterback. You can't have anything like that in this style of offense, which is more pure progression. But I mean, it depends how you look at it. I mean, you have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, they everything's built in. So from that standpoint, but it's certainly more complicated. Now, again, I don't like the West Coast title because nobody plays the true West Coast offense, which is, to me, Bill Walsh. Nobody plays that anymore. But you have those 7 or 10 concepts that Sean McVay talks about in the passing game. And by the time the games come around, the quarterback should be well-versed on where the ball needs to go if certain things happen. But as far as, completely simplifying things to, an RPO level, No, that's not going to exist unless you want to run RPOs, which there's nothing against the law that says you can't play different styles, and toggle back and forth the blended offense, so to speak. And if you're successful, but the Eagles, went away from the RPO a lot because of the way the game is legislated. I talk about it all the time. When they ran it and it took over the league a lot, the officiating was more liberal. Teams started to complain, said that, they're 2 yards downfield. Of course you can't stop it as a defense. And they tightened it up. And then you saw these illegal downfield penalties. And it became a cost benefit thing for the Eagles. Well, they nobody got dinged more with more illegal downfield. And how many times that's why it bothers me when so-and-so's got 15 penalties on the offensive. I'm exaggerating, but an illegal downfield has never been the fault of an offensive line, ever in the history of football. An RPO is a running play to an offensive line. It is up to the other players, the quarterback most notably. That ball's got to come out on time every time, or he's going to be downfield. Now, sometimes the officials will miss it, and you get away with it. But if they're calling it properly, the way they're supposed to, it's a penalty. And it's a penalty number whatever, and the offensive lineman gets blamed. It's not their fault. But anyway, tangent. You can run it, but no, there's nothing in this offense that replicates an RPO because an RPO generally isn't used very much in this offense.
Fair enough. Good answer there, Johnny Mac. Appreciate that response. Let's go real quick to Prince, who followed up. Prince, thanks for the super chats this morning, brother. We appreciate your support. He says this: my follow-up question is, who do you blame for him not wanting to do it last season? Because he felt he wasn't prepared for it, and because it didn't create a storyline about him. Prince, I'm not following what John, you following that? Because he felt he wasn't prepared for it, and because I don't know
about the storyline part. I don't think that has anything to do with it. I think he wasn't comfortable because he wasn't prepared for it.
Right. Like you said, they didn't practice it in the offseason. It wasn't anything they worked on, and that makes sense. I mean,
it makes the most sense to me, and that's how I checked with some people, and that's how it was explained to me. But it does make some sense to me. Obviously people are going to spin it in a positive fashion, but it does make some sense to me because, they didn't practice this. And, you also didn't have experts running it. So, Nick and Kevin weren't experts in that style of offense, but they wanted to do it because they felt that was the issue. People were selling out to stop Saquon Barkley, and they wanted to. Well, again, it was more about the running game than the passing game. They wanted to use more of the stretch, the wide zone stuff, because they think it was easier to handle some of the junk that was being thrown at them. And to their credit, it worked, at least to a level. It was better than it was early in the season. But that was sort of a shift, a dramatic shift in season. And again, if you look at what they're doing right now, they weren't preparing like that last season. They were preparing to play like they did in 2024. So when they show up and they say, we got to do this, and that's where you had some of the pushback from Jeff Stoutland as well. It's like, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? So I think when you frame it like that, well, even a veteran coach is like, look, we didn't prepare for this. We got to execute better, which is boring for everybody. But Nick is the head coach of the team, and Nick wanted to go in a different direction. And that's what the head coach is, it's his way or the highways. You see with Jeff Stoutland. So I think it makes some sense. And now they're preparing for it. So he's going to be more comfortable with it. And we'll see how it works out.
Yeah. Fair enough. Good stuff there, Johnny Mac. Here's Rich Nutt. What's up, Rich? John, from a reporter perspective, what are the pros and cons of covering a great winning organization or a disaster organization? Which do you prefer? Good question, Rich.
Well, the pros and cons, you're always rooting for the story. So I guess from that perspective, a disaster organization is easier to cover. I would say. I would frame it in terms of a winning organization is kind of boring, to be honest. So from that standpoint, I would say it doesn't matter. You still did the job doesn't change from that perspective. But I would say it's easier to cover it would be very easy to. I tell John Machota, my buddy from Dallas, all the time, I'm envious of him. It's like easy to cover the Dallas Cowboys. And to a certain degree, there's a lot of drama with the Eagles, but it's all really related to Howie's reputation. Like you're seeing the Myles Garrett stuff pop up again. That's just Howie's reputation. Not that Howie's not going to check in on Myles Garrett, because he will, but that's the point. He checks in on everybody.
Right.
So I tell that story all the time. Insert name and whomever the rumors about, and you'll see who's interested in this guy, and you'll see the Rams are, the Packers are, and the Eagles. It's always and the Eagles, because everybody knows
Howie's calling.
So there is a lot of drama around the Eagles, but it's kind of understood what it is. But as far as, when they're winning 16 of 17 games, you actually have to work at storylines, because they're like marching. It's like stormtroopers.
Right.
Well, they're going to win, whereas the disaster team is freaking easy to cover.
Yeah. It's chaos everywhere, Good stuff there. Rich, great question, man. I like that question here in the offseason. Here's Suplex City. What's up, Suplex? Good to see you, man. Thank you for the $10 super chat and the support of the channel. Big thanks to everybody today for the super chats. Here's Suplex. I found out on Mother's Day that my son graduated with Big Caden Steele from Cape Henlopen, and I even got to meet him. He's a good dude. My only celebrity run-in. By the way, Brock.
Wow, we're getting celebrity. Caden's a celebrity.
There you go, Caden. Right before he joins us. That's great stuff. I got to show him that super chat.
Yeah, local celebrity. I always joke people who cover the Eagles are Z-level local celebrities. That's what I always joke.
What is Cape Henlopen? Is that like a school?
I guess. I don't know. Caden went to Temple. I know that in college, but I don't know high school. He lives in Delaware, though. So is that a Delaware high school?
Yeah, it's a Delaware high school. That's what I'm looking at right now. Yep.
Yeah.
There you go. Here you go, Caden Steele.
So there you go. Yeah.
Love it.
Celebrity Caden Steele.
We got to read that to. I got to read that to Caden when he joins.
I always say he's got a superhero name. Plus, his brother Carson Steele plays for the Eagles now.
No, right? No, there's a name Carson Steele out there, right? But it's no relation to Caden.
No, he's no relation. He does play for the Eagles, but no, it's no relation.
Yeah. All right. You got me there for a second. I'm like, wait a second. Wait a second, Johnny Mac.
Carson Steele.
Carson Steele.
Fullback.
Here's Dylan Locke. What's up, Dylan? Good to see you, brother. Thank you for the big super chat. $20 super chat supporting the show on this Football Friday. We appreciate all super chats here on JAKIB Sports. You guys keep us alive. We appreciate it. Dylan Locke says, good morning, gentlemen, and happy Friday. Just have to say, this team looks to be in the best shape they have ever been in. Also, my gosh, can Cooper DeJean get any bigger? Definitely the scariest DB in the NFL. Boy, Dill Lock. That's some Eagle glasses on there. This team
Yeah,
looks to be in the best
people
shape they've
get
ever
way.
been in. Dill, I got to ask you, what is your barometer to gauge that on? Is it just the photos you saw from yesterday or from a couple days ago or what?
Well, yeah, I guess, there's a YouTube video I saw that the Eagles put up was a Cooper DeJean workout. I think he was flexing a little bit. So, I mean, he's always been jacked for a defensive back. Like, and then Zach Bond called him swole. So I guess he's gotten bigger. But he's always been big. I mean, from that standpoint. I didn't notice it. Like,
big. I mean, he did look. I don't know. I saw a picture of him walking out of somewhere, and he looked pretty husky.
But he's always been that. Like, I mean, he's always been.
Yeah, he's always been pretty built for sure.
So I assume he's gotten a little bit bigger. And like I said, I think yesterday I said that's locker room stuff where I can see I can see guys, and that happens all the time. The two biggest examples I can give you are TJ Edwards, who completely remade his body, completely, and turned into a really good player. And then Jakobi after he got hurt in his upper body. Saw a lot of people talking about Nolan getting bigger. But yeah, I saw the video. Cooper's definitely gotten bigger. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, though. He's a defensive back. So, I mean, he was already big and he was already physical. Sometimes it's a give and take. Are you losing some, some of that versatility and some of that speed and quickness? Hopefully not at his age. That's what you have to keep an eye on. But again, I got to see box drills up close, which are a conditioning drill.
Yeah.
And like, I think people like there's two kinds of shape. I always say with wrestling, there's cosmetic shape, like wrestlers are in cosmetic shape. And then there's football shape. Like I used to cover Pat Williams and Kevin Williams, the Williams wall as the best interior run stopping 3 consecutive years, number 1 run defense in the NFL. Pat Williams was this monster, kind of fat, to be honest, nose tackle. You could not move that man. He got popped for PEDs at one point in his career. And I'm trying to, how's he getting PED? He's training to be strong. He's not training to headline WrestleMania. He's training to be powerful. And
Jordan Davis kind of spoke on that at his presser, didn't he? How he was like, this time of the year, you're really trying to bulk up, add strength. And then as you get a little closer, you get more in football shape.
Yeah. Whereas I told you at the boxer, Jeremiah Trotter, you talk about conditioning. I mean, that guy is in condition. Like, I don't know if anybody's noticing him. What's that?
You think he has a future in Philly as a starting linebacker maybe one day?
Well, I mean, he's blocked right now. It's different.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think he could be a start. I think he could be a starting linebacker in the NFL. He might have to go somewhere else. But last year, I mean, he was great. I think people forget because Jihad was not ready. And Jakobi was hurt, and he took first 2 weeks of camp. He took almost every first team rep, and he looked really good, really good. But the Eagles have a bunch of talented linebackers. But if he gets a chance, somebody gets hurt. You never hope somebody gets hurt. Now you're down one with Jakobi. He'd be the next man up. I think he can play. But he's in tremendous condition. His conditioning is unbelievable.
He's working out with his pops and his brother, I think, here locally. Some good stuff for Jeremiah Trotter Jr. I'd love to see him become a part of this defense at one point in the future. Maybe he's got a role this year. We will see what happens. I want to thank everybody for being here. John, I was going to hit the defense. I wanted to talk edge rusher rotation. I had a bunch of shit to talk defensive-wise, and the offense consumed us once again. All right, we got some super chats and the offense.
Defense is boring, like I said. I've said the same thing with the teams. Like, if you're good, defense is boring. Yeah, they're just good.
It's true. It's true. I mean, I do wonder about that edge rusher rotation. I'll say that. That's what I wanted to talk to you about first.
Well, I'm not worried
Well,
about the rotation. I'm worried about the effectiveness of the rotation.
that's
I
what
don't
I'm
think there's
talking
any
about. I mean, I
question.
feel good about Grenard, but everybody else, I think, is it's fair to wonder. Projection on Nolan, projection on Jalix.
Well, they're good players. It's not, are they going to be great players? There's some question of that, but they're already good players. So I don't have any questions about that. And I think, if you talk about a fourth edge rusher, Arnold Ebiketie, that's pretty good. Fourth guy. Ebiketie, by the way, looks weird because he's wearing 17. So you're looking for Nakobe Dean. And it's Arnold Ebiketie. And then Joe Trine wasn't there when we were there. He's fifth. That's pretty good, believe it, as a fifth. And I think they might move him if they stay healthy. And then from there, it's like, okay, you got a rookie, Keyshawn James Newbies. By the way, he's wearing 50. Jalen Phillips is a whole number, but you can tell the difference because Jalen Phillips is like 6'6". But Josh Weir's the other Nigerian, as local celebrity Caden Steele pops into the green room. Somebody called you a local celebrity, Caden.
I'm going to read him the super chat here. It's okay. And we're getting super chats out here on Bird 365 about the legend of Caden Steele. Speaking of him, let's go to him right now. He joins us here on Birds 365 on a football Friday. You can read all his work at NJ.com. Caden, welcome to the program. How you doing on this football Friday? I got a nice little super chat to read to you, my friend.
Yeah, I heard you guys. The legend's here. So
there you go.
Excited to get going.
You got to embrace your Z-level celebrityness.
Yeah,
I always call myself a Z-level local celebrity.
Well, Caden would have to be I don't know. You're going to have to give him a little higher than a Z.
All right, we'll give you C level.
C level. There you go. That's better. Suplex did this. I found out on Mother's Day my son graduated with big Caden Steele from K Penlopen, and I even got to meet him. He's a good dude. My only celebrity run-in is what Suplex City had to say about meeting you, Caden Steele.
Yeah,
so,
cool. I remember that. That's my boy from high school. So, but celebrity's a strong word, but
well, Caden, you're doing a good job, and Eagle fans are starting to see how good of a job you're doing, which is a great thing. Caden, what'd you think, man? OTAs were this week. I know you were down there. What'd you think of the first OTA you got to see for the 2026 Philadelphia Eagles?
Yeah, for what I've seen at practice, kind of hard to take away anything because they're not pads. I mean, I don't want to overreact to anything I saw on the field, but my biggest takeaway is mainly just from the guys, from the press conferences, Saquon and Jalen Hurts talking. It seems like, we'll see what happens in the season and how much of it looks extremely different than what they've done in the past, but they're talking like everything is going to be really different. And we have Saquon talking about how he's reaching out to Todd Gurley because he ran the outside zone a ton, looking for feedback on that. You have Jordan Davis saying what they're running in practice has given them trouble in the past, referencing, the outside zone stuff. And then Jalen talking about how they're going to be philosophically different than what they've been. So that is my biggest takeaway is just them running this new offense. So it seems like they're going to try to do this. I mean, we saw them go under center a ton in practice. We'll see how this works, but it seems like they're going full steam ahead with this West Coast style of offense, as Jalen Hurts called it.
Yeah, I don't like that framing, by the way. Nobody runs the West Coast offense. It bothers me. It's like the Bill Walsh, the old school West Coast offense. They run sort of a very limited scaled down version of it, but that's what people call it. And so I get why people keep saying it, but I did think Jalen said all the right things, hit all the right notes. And I did ask some people, and, there was some pushback last year when they shifted, but, as it was explained to me, and I kind of buy this, and I want to throw it at you, Caden. It's like, well, they didn't prepare for it last year, and they shifted in season. So, they didn't have these OTAs. They didn't have training camp. They were preparing to play like they did the year prior, rightfully so. So there was some pushback from the standpoint of, he just didn't feel prepared. Sort of some of the same things happened with Jeff Stoutland. It's like, we don't prepare to do this. And all of a sudden they're under center and they're trying more of the stretch stuff and the wide zone stuff, which worked, by the way. But the quarterback was uncomfortable with it. Now he's got a whole off season and he seems more willing to embrace it. Are you buying that or selling that?
I am buying that right now. I think we heard him talk about, and you mentioned the under center stuff, how they implement it. I don't remember the exact question that was framed to him, but he started talking about some of the under center stuff, and he was talking about, he wants to know why they're doing it, what's the purpose,
Yeah.
why is he going to set it up. So I think there's a possibility in the past, including last year, that maybe he didn't trust the reason behind it, and he wasn't as comfortable with it. But from the way he talked, I mean, I think you could tell there was some excitement from him about this new challenge of playing in this new offense. It seems like he likes what Sean is doing, the plan that he has set out for him. So I buy that. I buy that maybe he didn't trust Kevin as much. I mean,
he also said at the open, he said he's been able to answer all my questions. That was one of the first things he said when he was asked about it.
And I think he's pretty smart about like the messaging that he sends, and I thought that statement was pretty notable. I mean, but yeah, I think it's possible that there was some pushback because he wasn't comfortable. He didn't trust Kevin, and maybe he'll trust Sean more. And he seems open to it, and I think that is the good thing. He seems open to the new offense. He seems relaxed, which I thought was noticeable, like in his demeanor. He seems confident. I thought Jalen answered everything all the right ways the other day.
Yeah, he did. Too short, but he answered everything. Yeah. We got cut off pretty early from that thing. And, but we'll get to talk to him plenty as the weeks go by, and we'll see how it continues to progress. We did see more under center. We saw more quick throws. We saw more motion than we typically see. I did, most people thought the defense was ahead of the offense. That makes sense. I mean, Vic's been coaching for a million years, and Sean's so it's going to be a learning process. But as you point out, you don't take much from one OTA practice, but just your early thoughts on the quick passes, the tempo, the things like that.
Yeah. If they definitely did some of that in practice, and I think that can help Jalen a ton. I mean, I think if that is becoming a big emphasis, I think the offense can be more efficient. The reads can be a little bit quicker, and I think some of that stuff is good. And we've seen last year when they got in tempo, the offense is just so much better when they're running up tempo versus when they're going in the huddle. And I think that has worked well in the past, and they've talked about not getting rid of everything they've done in the last couple of years, and I think building on strengths is running more up tempo, and I think that could be good for the offense and the quick passing game. It could be good. I mean, especially with the guys that they have in this offense now. You had a guy like Mekhi Lemon. I didn't know what to take away from one practice from Mekhi Lemon. We'll see how he does as a rookie, but
there was a drop, Caden. He's a bust.
But he's really good after the catch. Dallas is pretty good after the catch. So if there is more shorter, quick routes this year, and the ball's getting out of Jalen's hand, and you're letting your guys make plays after the catch, and it's kind of what Green Bay has done to some level. Jordan Love's gotten the ball out of his hands faster, so I think that's a good thing. I think the offense will be different, and I think we saw some of that, and that could be included. But the up tempo, I think, will be really crucial for this team to run that pretty frequently because they're good at it, and we'll see what they do.
Personnel-wise, Caden, what do you think the biggest resistance is for this new offense that they're trying to implement?
I guess that's tough. I mean, I think the biggest question, and I think it's fair, is how the quarterback adjusts to this scheme. I don't know how Jalen will play. I have no doubt in my mind that he will try, and that he thinks that he can do it. And I don't think I think he is open to it. I don't know if his skill set necessarily fits it. I mean, I think, John, you've talked about it this year. I think everyone wonders whether Jalen's skill set. I mean, we just haven't seen him run this type of system before. I'm not saying he can't do it, but I think that's one of the biggest questions. I'm curious about the offensive line as well. I mean, I know, they think these guys are very talented and they're scheme dependent, but it's going to require them, typically a lot in the scheme, a lot of the offensive linemen are more athletic, a little bit lighter. And you have guys like Landon Dickerson and Cam Jurgens who are banged up. I question how they're going to be able to get out on the move. So that's another thing, if they're going to run some of this more of this outside zone, how will the offensive line be able to translate to that? I think everything is a question, honestly, until we see it. I don't know if there's anything that's like definitely like I look at as like a barrier. I mean, like ultimately Jalen could play really well in this game. I mean, I think I'm willing to see how it works out, because at every level, I mean, you can question whether, his skill set fits it, but I feel like at every point of his career where he's been doubted, whether it was, after he transferred from Alabama to Oklahoma, people didn't know he was going to become an NFL level quarterback. He became that in 2021. Going into 2022, when there was talks of, Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson, he came out and had an MVP level season. There was so much doubt around him heading into that year. I feel like this is the most doubt that he's probably faced in his career, since then. I would say since going into that 2022 season, there's so much pressure on him. And again, I think there's a lot of people that aren't sure whether he can do this. So, I mean, the fact that he's proved twice when people didn't think he could do something, he's done it, makes me feel like, it's possible. But we got to see. I mean, it's a different skill set that's required, and we got to see how he adapts to it. But I'm not doubting that he can do it.
Well, you mentioned 2021. I hear a lot of people saying people doubt Jalen Hurts. I think most of that is outside the organization, like the list season world of, Dan Orlovsky and those guys.
Yeah.
But in-house, this is the most doubt since 2021, since that first season as starter, when they really wanted Deshaun Watson to consider them and really wanted Russell Wilson to consider them, which seems ludicrous at this stage, but that was what was happening in 2021. And now you fast forward here, you have, look, I mean, we didn't get to that question because it got cut off, but this is it, man. He's got, I think, $22 million of guaranteed money after this season. No evidence an extension has been working on. They basically said by their actions, not their words, by their actions, the organization, hey, you got to get better this year or everything's on the table. Is that how you see it?
Yeah. And even if you want to go, back to Tim's article for ESPN, there's people putting that out there for a reason, that messaging. They want Jalen to see that message. I mean, everything has a purpose. Every person has a motivation behind why they tell a reporter something or leak some type of information. And when it just comes to the contract, they haven't extended him. You would think they would, with especially since all of his guaranteed money will be up. I see it as that way. I think it's Jalen. Can you embrace this offense? Can you do the things that people think he's uncomfortable with, and can you do it well? And can you become what we need you to be, or what they want to be in this offense? Or are you going to resist it again? Or we're going to have to dial it back? And then is the offense going to struggle again? And if that happens, then I think they will think about moving on from Jalen. But at the same time, I mean, again, I don't know how this is going to work, but in a weird way, I do think this could work out for the Eagles. I mean, when supposedly, his back is against the wall, and there's a ton of criticism around him, and he knows his stuff. He reads it. I mean, he reads, about, how the stuff and how his relationship with AJ. I mean, he brought up the wedding out of nowhere. I mean, like he reads the stuff. He knows what people are saying about him, and he's just proven. Like stuff like that in the past has motivated him, and maybe it's the thing that makes him tick. And maybe that, him knowing that there's all this pressure is that, like, he's got to put up or shut up. And maybe those are the circumstances that Jalen plays the best. And we'll see how Sean Mannion coaches, but maybe Sean Mannion will coach him hard, and we'll get the best of Jalen Hurts in 2026. I don't know. I mean, after listening to how he talked at the press conference, how he seemed open to things, he seemed relaxed. He wasn't like defensive in the questions that we asked him about anything, and he seemed like generally excited. I've come more around that. I actually think Jalen's going to do well in this game. Obviously, we've got to see, but I think the circumstance could actually set up where Jalen ends up being successful and doesn't fail.
It's a beautiful thing to step into covenant. People think he was talking about AJ and his beautiful wife. Maybe he was talking about himself and Sean Mannion. They're stepping into a covenant. It's a beautiful thing.
I enjoyed that part of the whole press conference the most, like his response to AJ.
Well, the water.
I'm with you. I enjoyed it so much.
Yeah.
That's like it's like the most personality I feel like he has shown during his time here. Like he joked around, like he had a little humor. I enjoyed that part. I thought that was
I thought it was great. I thought he was great at the press.
I thought it was a subtle troll too by saying the wedding pictures looked like they came out great. I thought that was hilarious.
I think there could be something. No one asked him about the wedding. He brought that up on his own.
Unprompted, yeah.
So it could have been a little bit of a troll.
TMZ has not gotten credentialed to date. Why are we going to ask him about the wedding? I mean, what? I don't know. Some people get upset because we don't ask stupid shit, but I don't know. I don't know why they get upset, Caden. Did you have any interest on hearing the wedding being asked about?
No, and I mean, in general, I don't have any interest about his relationship with AJ. He's not going to be honest. He's not going to tell us on there like AJ have butt heads and we're not close anymore. He's going to keep it professional what he did, but like. I mean, he took the sip of water.
Oh, I don't have a problem with him doing it. Yeah, I'm with you there. I just, some people criticize us when we don't ask certain questions, and I'm like, what? There's a lot of shit with this offense we got to get to, and we only had 9 minutes. It turns out. I would have loved to hear about the contract stuff. And I was planning on hitting up the ESPN article late. Trying to get them, but and they said, "Oh, we got to go," and here comes the special teams players.
You could sit there and ask them all day. I mean, you could ask about Parks Frazier. It's another quarterbacks coach. His why is he continuing to work with Scott Leffler? I mean, there's
the Leffler stuff. Yeah, I wanted to get that in there. That's weird. I still got to ask that because that's weird. I mean, I think it was passive aggressive, but I don't know how you frame that. I mean, that I can't think of they fired him. I mean, let's be honest. And Jalen continued to work with. That's weird. That is very weird.
Yeah, I guess the first thing I thought of when I saw that is, I mean, well, obviously you have to hear from him and what he thinks, and if we could talk to Scott, I mean, it shows that there is some level of butting in the heads with the organization that the quarterback coach that he really liked last year. I never asked him in August. I mean, and I think Jalen isn't one to like praise a coach for whatever it is. I mean, like really, I mean, I'm not trying to like dump on Kevin Patullo, but I never really heard him praise Kevin Patullo about anything. I mean, like really strongly. Last year when I asked him about Scott Leffler during training camp, you could see him light up and how he talked about Scott Leffler. I mean, talked about him highly throughout the season anytime he was asked about Scott Leffler, and the fact that he's still working with him shows that he respects him. He thought he was good for him. I wonder if Jalen disagreed with that decision. I mean, it looks like
have to think that's what John's been talking about, the proxy war.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, you would have to think that obviously he likes him. He wants to keep working with him.
Yeah.
From my standpoint, that's like, if you think about Parks, nothing against Parks Frazier, but he hasn't been a quarterback's coach very often, and he's been a quarterback. He was a quarterback himself in college, but all his jobs at the pro level have been like passing game coordinator. He was the interim offensive coordinator. He actually skipped quarterbacks coach. He was a senior assistant, I think, on one of the stops. And meanwhile, Leffler coached Tom Brady. He's been coaching quarterbacks for years. I don't know. And why wouldn't you let him have? Like I get, like I'm not one of those people that say, "Well, Jalen Hurts should be in on the offensive coordinator interviews or stuff like that." But I mean, if you're talking about a position coach and you have a quarterback who likes working with a guy with a ton of experience, why would you move on from that?
Yeah, yeah, and it's a fair question because I do think Jalen liked. I mean, you look at the quarterbacks he worked with, like you said, like the Tom Brady's, the Tim Tebow's. In terms of like that mindset, I think Jalen tries to have a similar mindset. I could see him really meshing well with Scott Loeffler. Scott Loeffler is like a no nonsense coach from what people have told me before, and that kind of probably appealed to Jalen. Now he's gone. My best guess is that they're running this new system, and someone felt, I don't know if it was Nick or Sean or whoever felt that Scott wasn't best for this. Parks has been in Miami before with Mike McDaniel. Maybe they thought
that's what I asked Nick at the pre-combine thing when he talked before the combine. I asked him about Loeffler. I asked him about Parks and why Parks was the right fit, and he did say, well, he's got experience in both. So he's got experience in the old offense, the new offense. You mentioned his time in Miami. So I'm like, all right. Well, really, to me, what it is, he's a Nick Sirianni guy.
Yeah.
And you're trying to find a spot for him. And you had to give the passing game coordinator to Josh Grizzard to get him. And they wanted to keep Parks Frazier. Nick wanted to keep Parks Frazier, but he's never been a quarterback's coach.
No.
Ever. Now, he was a quarterback at Murray State, but he's never been. He was the assistant quarterback's coach in Indy with Nick. And then he became the interim offensive coordinator, the passing game coordinator in Carolina, an offensive assistant, sort of a senior assistant with McDaniel. And then he was the passing game coordinator here.
Yeah. And we don't know, if he's going to be good in this role. But I do find it fascinating. They've surrounded him with a ton of former quarterbacks. I mean, Sean Mannion. Yeah. So I'm sure he'll have a heavy influence on Jalen's development. Gerard Johnson, they've added in some role.
By the way, were you at the Hurt thing yesterday, Casper thing?
Yes, I was.
I couldn't make it because my wife's car was in the shop and she had my car, so I was stuck and I wasn't taking an Uber down there. But anyway, did anybody ask those guys about Vic talking about titles? Did anybody ask them that?
I don't. There were questions about Vic. Joe Casper spoke highly of him and the impact.
Well, of course,
on his career and stuff. But no one got into the age. Now he's or the title for a pass game coordinator for Joe Casper. I think even the question framed to him was, in his new role as the defensive backs coach. I don't remember who asked it, but
that's what I explained on the show to Vic. Joe Casper's the secondary coach. That's what he's trying to say. That's what his job is, no matter what the title says.
Yeah.
And the new guy's sort of the assistant secondary. In Vic's mind, I'm saying. But I was curious if anybody got into that because I would have loved to ask. I'll ask Vic at some point. But yeah, I mean, these titles, and that's why, to your point about like the guys most important with Jalen Hurts are not Josh Grizzard and Jared Johnson. They are Sean Mannion and Parks Frazier. Sean's running the offense, and Parks Frazier's the guy who's going to work with day to day. I'm like, everybody else, don't worry about. To Vic's point, it's like they're the guys. If you're going to blame somebody, blame them. They're the guys. I don't. But people make it into this big thing. I'm like, there's not. And like Josh Grizzard is, hey, he's not going to walk over to Jalen and say, hey, don't listen to Sean Mannion. It's like too many cooks in the kitchen. I don't think that exists. It's just these goofy titles.
Yeah. And I think those guys are more here for one. I do think they interviewed Josh Grizzard. Obviously, they thought highly of him. He's got a background in this scheme. I think it's more likely that they want to create a better path for a succession plan for
Exactly.
if Sean Mannion works out. Can we have a guy that can run this scheme? Because that to me, that's even farther evidence that they're going to run this. They've added so many coaches from that back. Even Gerard Johnson was working with Bobby Slowick in Houston, so he's got a knowledge of how this,
Well, he's a Nick guy too. Nick
Yeah.
loves Jared Johnson. And that's another thing. Jared. You know why Jared Johnson's here? I'm going to be blatantly honest, because had a falling out in Houston after C.J. Stroud fell off. They mutually agreed to part ways late, and Nick was giving him a job because he likes him. That's why he's here.
He's liked him before. I mean, he's interviewed him before in the past. Obviously, he thinks highly of him, and it shows you that Nick still has some say, over his staff and who's here. Even though there might be a perception that Sean's in control, it's still Nick.
It's Nick. The coaching is Nick. You see little hints. Vink gave that away too when he was talking about Cooper. I asked him about Cooper, and he's like, Nick was here interviewing 20 guys. But people hear what they want to hear, Caden. They hear what they want to hear.
Yeah.
Caden, let me ask you. I know it's a tired conversation at this point, but do you think another team could swoop in here to get AJ, and it wouldn't be the Patriots? I mean, you've seen some of the reports this week from Rappaport, I'm sure. What do you make of it?
I doubt another team will come and swoop in. I've seen some of the stuff out there from different people about Jacksonville maybe, and I don't know how true that is. My guess is the Eagles and the Patriots get something done here, and that some of this stuff getting leaked is just part of the negotiation tactic. I mean, I did see the Ian Rappaport report talking about how the New England's not willing to give up a first round pick. I would say if that is the case, maybe it could drag on, because I don't know in what world, if you're the Eagles, you settle for less than a first round pick. I mean, I think I get AJ. There's maybe concerns about the medical. He's gotten banged up a little bit recently. There was concerns even when he got traded here back in 2022 about the knee. So maybe there is some concern here. But I mean, he's a really good player. I mean, I look at New England's wide receiver core, and maybe they're trying to play a little bit of hardball. But I mean, their best wide receiver is Romeo Doubs. Like, that's a little better than what they had last year. It's not that much better. I mean, they would have a pretty bad wide receiver core without A.J. Brown. Obviously, they've loved him for a long time, for multiple years now. It seems Mike Vrabel's there. Obviously, they want A.J. I think at some point they're going to cough up that first-round pick, whether it's 2027 or 2028, and that this stuff out there about not being a first-round pick, I don't buy into it, and I think he's going to be a Patriot, sometime next week would probably be my guess. I'd be surprised.
Yeah, all right, quick. I think it could drag on but it'll certainly happen before camp.
Okay.
But it wouldn't surprise. Howie's very stubborn. It wouldn't surprise me if it dragged on. But there are certain people that think, oh, maybe the door's open. You brought up somebody, Zander. This would be the greatest wide receiver group of all time if AJ. I'm like, come on, settle down. Dontavian Wicks becomes irrelevant if AJ's here. Mekhi Lemon's not even relevant if AJ's here. He's not coming back. The Eagles have approached the entire offseason understanding they are moving him. It's just a matter of when, not if. That's what's going on with AJ Brown. But
100%. I mean, the first move, Marquise Brown, you could talk yourself, he's just a piece. But as soon as they traded for Dontavian Wicks, that was a little closer to the evidence that AJ wasn't going to be back. And then Mekhi Lemon sealed it. I mean, that's going to be their top four wide receivers this year. And AJ Brown's, he's not coming to OTAs for a reason. His teammates aren't coming out and saying AJ's here this season for a reason. I mean, he's gone. I mean, it's time to accept it. AJ is gone, and he's probably going to be a Patriot. The only other team, and I think I saw Albert Breer, and not report that they are interested, but, connected the dots to maybe, Kansas City, and when I read that would make some sense with the situation, but I don't know.
You can't count on Rasheed, right? Yeah, I mean, you can't. And, to a certain degree, the Rams. I don't know if the Rams can count on Puka Nacua. We don't know where he is. So, I mean, but I don't know. I still don't know why the Eagles would trade him to the Rams. That makes no sense to me.
Yeah, especially when you want to win a Super. I mean, if you're rebuilding, I don't think they would care as much. They were expecting to go 5-12 next year.
Yeah, exactly. So, I'll tell you what, but before we got to let you go, I want you to talk about the defense a little bit. This defense is so good, it's become boring. We never talk about it because we know they're going to be good. It's just a matter of how good. And I think it's only going to get better. As Vic's history, if you go back to San Francisco and Chicago, when he really took off and he became sort of the best defensive mind in football. He was in, he was there. He was in both spots about 4 years, and they just kept getting better and better and better. And he does more stuff and he feels more comfortable. I think you're going to see the same thing with this defense. I think it's going to be a big year for the Eagles defensively. And that's why I think their floor as a team is so high. Because I don't care what the offense does. The defense is going to be really freaking good. And they're going to be in a lot of games.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. That's why I kind of think their floor is like 9-8, 10-7. Like worst case scenario, I think they're like 9-8. Like the offense is atrocious, but the defense is so good they still have a winning record. I mean, I would agree with you. I mean, even just at practice the other day. And again, I don't want to take away too much from practice, but watching the way Tyreek Woolen moves at his size, and I'm thinking like, him, in this scheme, being like their third best corner, in nickel versus Adoree Jackson. I mean, that's a significant upgrade. And you look at the talent on this defense, I think there's a chance Jonathan Gennard is an upgrade over Jalen Phillips, at least as a pass rusher. I think he's
I agree. I don't know if he's better all around, but as a pass rusher, I think he's going to be better.
Yeah, and then like overall for the pass rusher, I think Jalen's going to take another step. I mean, if Jalen Carter is healthy with his shoulders, what Clint Hurt talked about, he's in a pretty good area right now with that, and he looks good. If he bounces back to his full 2024 form with the way Jordan Davis has developed, the Moro Jomo I expect to get even better. I think they're going to have a really good defensive line, which allows them to do a lot of different things. I expect a lot out of Zach Bond and Jahad Campbell, really. And you look at the secondary. I mean, Cooper DeJean and Quinion Mitchell should continue to get better. I mean, the only real area that I can point to that you could be worried about is safety, because you have to question, how much better will Drew Makuba get in year two, coming off an injury. His rookie year got cut short. Can he be more consistent this year? I know Cooper's going to play in the base, but who's going to fill that role in nickel? I mean, maybe they'll add another body to that room at some point. I don't expect them to make a huge move there, but even then, I mean, they probably can get by with that if they can just be like average to okay at safety, and Cooper plays there in base. They'll probably be fine. There's no real like significant weakness on this defense that makes me worried. And they're super talented. And they're so well coached. I mean, even talking to Joe Casper yesterday, I mean, Vic is an awesome defensive mind. Obviously, he's considered like the godfather of NFL, modern NFL defense. But then he has a really good staff around him. I mean, like Joe Casper and Bobby King and Clint Hurt, like all these guys are really smart and and have received a lot of praise from the players that they coach in their position. And I mean, Clint Hurt had a DC interview this year. Joe Casper, maybe that's something that's going to happen for him.
Christian Parker,
Christian Parker, like Vic's built a great staff and they have a ton of talent. I mean, they're a well-oiled machine. I mean, I would be surprised if they aren't at least a top 10 defense, but like, I fully expect them to be a top 5 defense. I mean, they're loaded.
I love all those guys. I love Christian Parker, love Clint Hurt, love Joe Casper. One of my favorite interviews ever with Joe Casper down at the Super Bowl. Really, really smart guy. Bobby King's, I think, number 2. I think, well, Clint Hurt's number 2, but when it comes to game day, I think Vic leans on Bobby King the most. But while I say all that, when Vic does retire, nobody's replacing him.
No.
Nobody's replacing him.
I mean, he's like one of the best defensive minds in history. I mean, it's like saying, when, let's say, and it's not happening, but let's say, Kyle Shanahan retired from San Francisco or something.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no one replacing that. Like, you might still have a good defense because they have a lot of young talent. You figure, let's say Vic, what do you say in his press conference? He's got 2 good years left in him.
Yeah.
Let's say 2 years.
He's reverse aging.
He's reverse aging. But he still has, Jalen Carter, you figure will still be in his prime, and Jordan Davis and Quinion and Cooper DeJean, and if those guys are paid and they're here, they'll still probably have a good defense. But they won't have the defense that they have now with Vic. I mean, he gives them such a schematic advantage as well. So Vic is, this couple of years he's been here and covering the team. It's been a pleasure to watch his defense, but just to hear him talk, it's been fun. So hopefully he continues to reverse age so we can get more.
Real quick, just said we got to get it in. At Caden_Steele19. Make sure you follow Caden on the X platform. Read him at nj.com. Does a tremendous job. Myles Garrett stuff is popping back up. Eagles, Cowboys, superpower. You mentioned Jalen Carter. If there's a way that Howie Roseman can get Myles Garrett, he's going to get Myles Garrett. I don't care what it looks like. I don't care. They got Jonathan Grenard. I don't care the money. If there is a way, he's going to get Myles Garrett. And it would cost multiple first-round picks, and it would probably cost Jalen Carter. Are you begging away from that?
I'm doing it.
I would do it. I mean, Jalen Carter is an awesome player. I think if he's healthy and he's in the right mindset and everything is consistent year in, year out, like I think you're looking at, potentially like a Chris Jones level of player, an elite top of the end defensive tackle year in, year out. And that's a huge difference maker in the NFL. And we've seen what those guys can do with the top defensive tackles in the league. And I think Jalen has that potential. Myles Garrett's different. I mean, Myles Garrett is one of the best defensive players in NFL history already. By the time his career is over, he's going to be in the conversation with Lawrence Taylor and Reggie White as one of those dudes. And I think you have an opportunity to do that, and you're in a Super Bowl window. I think you go for it. And those 2 first-round picks are probably going to be late first-round picks, you hope. And you look at the defensive tackle room, the depth behind, Jordan Davis and Moro Ojomo isn't great. So you would have to figure out what to do there. But like Moro Ojomo, I think is only going to continue to get better. He's extremely smart. He's a savvy football player. He's a good player. He could be an 8-9 sack. He could be, last year, I know I wouldn't say last year he was better than Milton, but I think the ceiling is going to get higher and higher for him. After what I saw last year, I'm more of a believer in Moro Ojomo than I was going into last year. And Jordan Davis continues to get better and better. So you have 2 guys there already. They're high level, maybe Pro Bowl caliber players at some point in their career. So you're afforded to potentially move on from Jalen Carter if you can make that swap for Myles Garrett, who's one of the best defensive players of all time. I think you would do it. It would probably hurt to see Jalen Carter leave, but I think it would be worth the sacrifice.
You gotta give up something to get something like that. Like a predator on ice skates, on grass, whatever Cam Jurgens said. I don't understand it, but it made sense. Myles Garrett is different. And we get to see Chloe Kimmick practice as we did last year. That's good.
Yeah. But no, in all seriousness, I would do. Imagine Myles Garrett and Jonathan Grenard as like your 2
oh my
starters.
God, I can't even. Yeah. It never works out quite as well as you think, but in that case, I think it would work out quite as well.
If I were the Eagles, I would try to, instead of Jalen Carter, I'd try to convince Cleveland, like, Nolan Smith, he still has, some potential. I would try to swap one of those guys, but probably before Jalen Carter. But I don't know if they'd be taking that offer. I think they would want.
Hey, you never know if they're ripping it down to the studs. Maybe they prefer the picks and the cheaper players. You never know, because you're going to have to pay Jalen Carter a ton of money. So you might not be off base. They might want somebody like Jalix Hunt. Might make more sense from a monetary perspective, but
if that were the case, I wouldn't even think about it.
Yeah.
If it was Jalix Hunt or Nolan Smith or whatever they wanted as an edge rusher and 2 first-round picks, obviously they would have to figure out the money. But I agree with you. If there's a way, Howie will find it. I think this has probably been in the back of his mind for a couple of years now, and it seems like there's some legs that at least Myles Garrett, there's a chance he's traded from Cleveland, and The Eagles will probably at least make a phone call, I would assume.
Yeah, they'll definitely make a phone call.
Oh, no doubt. All right, Caden, good stuff, man. We appreciate it. As John mentioned, follow Caden on X at Caden_Steele19. Read all his work at NJ.com. Caden, we appreciate you doing it today. The local celebrity is out. Thank you, Caden.
All right.
Thanks, bud.
All right, thanks, Caden. There's Caden Steele joining us right here on Birds 365. Great show today, Johnny Mac, to wrap up the week. OTAs kicked off. All right, they came and they went. You only had a chance to see one of them. I wish they gave you a little bit more, but that's all right. And then they'll have 3 next week. I think it's Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. J Max, so you don't know which day yet. I assume that you'll be down.
No, I'll get 12 hours notice.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll get one next week. Then mini camp is the 9th and the 10th, I believe, June 9th and 10th. And then we're off into the abyss of list season, which, by the way, they did another draft. Greg Rosenthal, we got mileage out of that draft. I'll save that for next week. It was the edge rushers, and the Eagles got 2 drafted, 2 in the top 30. Yeah.
Oh, in the top 30. Okay, top 30. I could see that. All right, John, good stuff, man. Your final thought here on a Football Friday in this week's week of content. We heard from Jalen, Nick. You saw an OTA. We saw the first look at this potential new offense that they're going to be running. Your final thoughts here on a Football Friday, my friend. I think we got 2 supers to read before we get go. But go ahead, give me your final thought, and then I'll read them real quick.
Well, I think emphasize what Caden and I were talking about there, that the floor for this team is pretty high because of the defense. So, the story is going to be the offense, but the strength of this team, and it has been, this will be the 3rd consecutive year, despite the perception, remains the defensive side of the football.
I agree, Johnny Mac. Let's go to our final 2 supers. Dill says Drew Makuba, if he gets healthy, will be the dark horse of the year. Eagles glasses on and fully engaged. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good player. I don't know if he's going to be, one of their best players, but he fits what Vic wants. He's very good coverage player, very comfortable in space, and that's what Vic wants in his safeties. So he's a good fit. And hopefully he stays healthy. He's still undersized, and he plays like he's oversized, so that could impact him. But he's, that was a big positive that he was ready to go from his fractured fibula for day 1 of OTAs. So it was actually day 2, but it's positive that he's a full go this early.
Good stuff. Final chat of the day. Steve Go Shoot says, even though they trash my team all day, I still support you, Zander. Who trashes your team all day? It's not us. I don't think we trash any team all day.
Who is his team? Do we know?
I don't think it's the Eagles. No, I know Steve's been
here Steve. I thought we trash the Eagles all day. Yeah.
No, he's not an Eagles guy, Steve. I know Steve. I thought he was a Patriots guy, Steve. You tell me. I think I got that right. I don't think we trash your team all day. Steve, are you getting emotional on me, Steve?
Do we even talk about the Patriots today other than in passing with AJ going to the Patriots?
Oh, man, Steve, you're not going emotional on me, are you, Steve? All right, Stevie. All right, John, good show today, my friend. I will catch up with you on Monday, all right, for another Monday edition of Birds 365. Thanks for doing it this week, my friend. We will talk to you soon.
All right, sounds good. Have a good weekend, everybody.
You too, J-Mac. Thank you, brother. There's Johnny Mac, John McMullen, joining us right here on Birds 365. Good show there, all right, from Johnny Mac today. I thought Caden Steele had a nice interview as well today. Shout out to Suplex for that super chat, all right, making Caden feel like a star before he came in. That was pretty good. How's everybody doing? I hope everybody's having a nice Friday morning, all right? Friday is here if you guys made it to Friday. Are you guys the type of people that live for the weekend? You get the Friday and you start feeling good, and you get the Monday and you're depressed. Is that you guys? You guys got to let me know. Is that you? I try to make that not me. If that's my life, then isn't that kind of sad? You just live for the weekend. I don't know. That would be sad to me. I try and wake up every day with some vigor and some tenacity and some love for life. All right, Sig? No more being depressed every day, Sig. Every day is a gift. Amen. Amen. Bonnie says AJ will be back, Zander. Wow. John ducked your question about if Howie doesn't get a conditional 27 or first and 27 or 28. Yeah, he did. He did kind of duck that question. I'm like, well, John, what if he doesn't get it? John's like, well, I think he's going to get it. All right, well, what if he doesn't? You know? What if he doesn't? Kimberly, I feel the same. Every day I wake up above ground. I'm with you. Just another day to me. Even holidays are birthday. There you go, Deshay. That's what my pops used to say. Another day in the week. That's what I do, Z. Solidarity to all my fellow workers of the world. Let's go, Mayan. Good to see you, brother. No blocking mine. Daz, I know you like to block mine, and you can debate him all you want. No blocking mine. All right? Mayan's earned his stripes here. Whether you like him or you don't like him, I don't really care. All right? All right? Mayan's earned his stripes. As have you, Daz. If you guys want to duke it out, fine, duke it out. I'm still holding hope. Yeah, Bonnie, I just don't see it, dude, honestly. I just don't. I'm not trying to shit on you or put you down, but I just don't see it. I mean, John's right. They paid $12 million for Wicks. They drafted Mekhi Lemon in round 1. Jalen Hurts is basically talking about him like he's gone. They didn't even ask Sean Mannion about him. I don't think AJ's back, Bonnie. All right. John did duck my question. He did. I agree with that. Steve, where'd you go? You still crying, Steve? Even though you hate on my team every day. Steve, I don't hate on your team. I try and give you my fair and honest assessment of every team. That includes NFC East teams. It includes the Eagles. It includes them all. Doesn't mean I'm right. Doesn't mean I'm right. If AJ stays, the wide receiver, yeah, it is, but I don't think that's happening. Bonnie says, I get it, Z, but until I see the Schefter tweet, I'm holding the line. I can respect it. All right. I can respect it. Jerry says, should be a rule to keep Jerry, Jerry, I know that I've joked that I am the dictator in these parts, but I'm not going to go and police what people talk about all the time. Jerry, you know what that's going to do? I'm going to be having to, block this guy, all day. I get what you're saying, Jerry, but dude, I can't get, human beings are human beings. They're going to talk about things. They're going to debate. They're going to agree. They're going to disagree. They're going to go to different areas. They're going to have thoughts about things. They're going to get emotional. These are all things that are going to happen. I think if we all can agree to it's a YouTube chat and don't take it too personally, then I think we can all move forward. I'm not going to police the chat on what people are allowed to talk about. It's just not my style. Zander, do you believe that this is why we see our group is deeper, even though they're losing AJ? Angel, I think it's more just like, they got to move on. I mean, the team is deeper, or the receiving group is deeper, but they haven't really used their depth at wide receiver very much. Like, I don't think Jahan Dotson was a bad player. They didn't use him very much, but I don't think he was a bad player. So it is what it is. No, I'm really not, Kimberly. It's not really me. Curtis says if the chat goes somewhere you don't like, stop reading. I agree. I agree. Well, Jerry, good luck getting everybody to abide by that rule. No, they cut him off. Nothing. Hurts only had 9 minutes. That's really short for the starting quarterback for sure. And I think Baum was up there longer than that. Yeah, I'm not down there, Rich. I hope you have a nice weekend, dude. Finally got nice. I was down there for a couple of days. I had some shit to do down there. Wasn't very nice when I was there. Came home yesterday, of course, when it's pulling out. It's beautiful and sunny. I'm like, of course. That's just always how it works. It's just always how it works. Yeah, fuck your feelings. Prince, amen. Amen. Feelings are overrated. Need a Bond jersey. I got you, bonehead. I got you, bonehead. Park, what's up, Park? Z, if you look at AJ play, it wasn't good. Team's not willing to give any value. Park, you might be right, dude. I don't really know. I think AJ's still a great player, but you're right. He obviously didn't look that good last year. Like for example, Park brings up a good point where, I think a lot of us fall into like, okay, AJ was elite, all right, but hear me out. If you're a GM, think about if you're a GM about to trade a number one overall, a first round pick for AJ. What are you going to do? I'll liken it to you. If you're going to spend good money on something in your life, maybe it's a house, maybe it's a car, maybe it's I don't know, whatever one of your hobbies might be. Maybe it's you're sending your kids to a private school or a good school. Whatever the case, whatever it might be. What are you going to do before you spend that money? What are you going to do before you spend the money? You're probably going to go and research it. You're probably going to make sure you read the reviews about it. You're probably going to go and see what other people are paying for it. You're probably going to look at what you're going to get back for what you give in value, right? So I'm just saying, if a team is out there, Park has a good point. If a team is out there and they're like, all right, let's send this first round pick for A.J. Brown. Let me go research the player. Let me go watch some tape. Let me go see what A.J. was doing last year. Right? Keith's due diligence. I don't know, dude. Maybe they look and maybe Park is right. Maybe they're like, dude, I'm not giving a first round pick. I'm not giving, I don't know. Maybe they'll default back to 22 and 23 when AJ was a dominant player. But maybe they look at 24 and 25 and don't feel enamored. Maybe they don't feel that the juice is worth the squeeze. Maybe they don't feel like a first-round pick for a 30-year-old, $32 million wideout makes a whole lot of sense. I've kind of been saying this all summer where is AJ worth what we think he's worth? I don't know. Park, I think it's a very fair question, man. Noah says, Zander, I got to give you props for saying F going Alex, short for Alexander. I'm taking the Zander. I literally thought that was just your name, not a short. Yeah, Alex. So my full name is Alexander James Krause. That's my full name. Alexander James Krause. And when I was a kid, it's funny, my dad and my grandmother used to fight about this because my dad said, if we're not going to call him Alexander, which in hindsight, I wish they did. Honestly, I love the name Alexander. The problem is everybody just starts calling you Alex. My dad said he's not Alex. He's not going to be an Alex. He's not an Alex. He's got to be Zander. And then where the fight with my dad and my grandmother came in was my grandmother said, okay, Zander is with an X. And my dad said, no, I want it to be with a Z. I want it to be with a Z. So there you go. My dad is ultimately responsible for me being Zander with a Z. All right? Zander with a Z. But the correct spelling of Zander technically is with an X. My full name does not have a Z in it. It's Alexander, Alexander. So pretty interesting. But yeah, I understand I spell it wrong. My dad won that battle. So, you call me Sills? Come on, Prince. Zander, what percentage of wide receivers who wanted out have been successful or are taking their new team to the next level? Well, Prince, I mean, that's a good question. I'd have to do a little more research to answer it, with the truth or with what the numbers show. But like you could look at a guy like Tyreek Hill. Prince, I mean, he didn't make his next team successful, but he did rack up 1,700 yards in consecutive seasons. Consecutive seasons. So, I mean, look, the grass might be greener for AJ personally. I don't think he's going to have a better team wherever he goes. I don't think they're going to win more than the Eagles. No freaking way. So, maybe look, guys, with AJ Prince, I appreciate your point, but I think you got to I think you got to disengage from the team mattering. I think AJ wants personal numbers here, and that's basically it. If he can go, like, look at the Miami Dolphins. They didn't do shit with Tyreek Hill, but Tyreek Hill went and racked up 1,700 yards for multiple seasons. Probably solidified his look at being a Hall of Famer. Maybe that's what AJ wants, dude. I don't know that AJ even gives a shit about the team's success, but it's a fair question. Silent Anarchy says, if Howie was smart, he will hold on to AJ for a month and allow teams to enter in and drive the price up to force New England to give up the 27 first. I agree. Just don't know if Silent Anarchy, if that, it's also walking a tightrope, You don't want the value. You don't want the Patriots to go and acquire some other team that wants to get rid of a receiver and then, they're not willing to pay anything, Z, do you need a first in the coming draft? I'd be all right with the 28 first. Obviously, 27 would be better. The Patriots are not that. That's true, Deshae. Good point. That's true. Morty, what's up, dude? Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Curtis said AJ basically said the team success did nothing for him when he got out of winning. Yeah, that's correct. That's basically what he posted on Instagram. I agree, Curtis. Me and you have said a similar perspective on that. Brandon Howard, what's up, B-Hal? Look at that. I like that profile picture, Brandon. It's like Kelly Green and Midnight Green, kind of a fusion of the two. What's that thing called again? That dot. I forget what it's called. I don't know. I take the best offer and let Howie trade wherever we get to move up in the next draft. Yeah, that's where I kind of think Howie will do good with a collection of assets, But oh, that's it. Yin and yang. Thank you, Big Mike. Rich, I'm slacking, brother. Rich, yesterday was my first missed post on a Thursday for ZK's Garage. I've been doing Tuesday, Thursday at 2 p.m., and I had a drive yesterday, and I didn't have any footage in the queue, and I missed my post for ZK's Garage, and I beat myself up about it. I got to get something up today. Not cool. Not cool, Zander. Not cool. There's no fucking excuses in life for missing your responsibilities. There's no fucking excuses in life for missing your responsibilities. A crock of shit by me. You've been researching Claude. Yeah, Claude's gone up and down. Claude's okay. 4.8 came out yesterday. Claude was really good on 4.6. 4.7 turned into a kind of a disaster. Wasn't very good. They fucked up the agentic part of it. GPT 5.5 took a huge leap forward. You get a ton of tokens on GPT. Like I use so much tokens on GPT, and it feels like I'm never going to run out. Like even right now, I've been using it all week. My usage right now, I'm still at 46% of my weekly usage, and it re-ups tomorrow, May 30th. So, and I'm on the $100 plan. I'm on the pro plan. So crazy. Daz, I have all AI agents doing my cutting. I got like 4 OpenClaw agents that do it for me. I might get a notification. Are they on? I'm not sure why you're not. I only post a couple times a week there. Yeah, YouTube noties are weird. They are. YouTube's changing for sure, man. YouTube's changed for sure. So I don't know. I hope they don't go too far with the stuff, because there is a shit ton of like bogged down content of like, just like these AI content that doesn't really like. My whole thing is, or at least my preference would be, take humans, use AI to help them, make better output or make better content. But if it's only AI created, I don't know. Is that going to lose people? I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I use Gemini a little bit. Gemini was real good at HTML. Oh shit, guys, I got to run. I got to take this phone call. All right, I love all you guys. See you next time, everybody. Sorry, I got to run here.